Sometimes Formula 1 can be extremely boring, whether that be a driver eking out a lead of 20 to 30 seconds at the front of the pack, or a race where there is simply no overtakes. It can sometimes be very, very dull. And this is mainly due to the fact that some teams have much bigger pockets than others on the grid. For example, take the likes of McLaren and Ferrari, who are money powerhouses, compared to the likes of Haas and Sauber, who are right down at the bottom of the grid. These differences in finances mean that teams can't employ the same amount of staff as others, which then leads to mechanical differences all across the grid. But what if there was a series that put a stop to that, where everyone had an equal playing field and was a stepping stone to Formula 1? And no, this isn't just some fantasy series where you can see a driver for their own true skill and their own pace. This is Formula 2. The FIA Formula 2 series has been running since 2017, and I've kept a keen eye on the series since about 2021, and to be perfectly honest, I prefer it over Formula 1. The fact that all the drivers are in equal machinery allows drivers to showcase their talent and prove why they are the stars of tomorrow. And although some of the drivers on the Formula 2 grid are there purely because of their financial backing, some of them truly are the real deal. But in today's video, I'm not just going to be looking at Charles Leclerc's win in the Formula 2 Championship in 2017 and all the winners since then. I'm going to be looking at the series all the way back from the beginning, in 1948, when it was also called Formula 2. Then it was called Formula 3000, then GP2, and then back to Formula 2 once again. So buckle up as we travel back in time through the slightly chaotic but always exciting history of the final step before Formula 1. But before we get underway, if you do like this weekly content and want to see more, please drop this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and leave any comments on what videos you want me to do in the future. Now, let's get underway. Let's start all the way at the beginning, when things weren't exactly simple. But this is motorsport, so why would anything be straightforward? Back in 1948, Formula 2 was created as, in theory, a cheaper version of Formula 1. Teams would run smaller engines and also have lower running costs. But it didn't take long before these teams figured out how to make quote-unquote cheaper cars more expensive again, because, well, that's the nature of racing. But hey, it was the ultimate battleground for up-and-coming Formula 1 stars. Jim Clark, Formula 2. Niki Lauda, Formula 2. Jackie Stewart, yes, he even cut his teeth in this category. Through the 1960s and 1970s, Formula 2 thrived as a category thanks to support from manufacturers like BMW and Honda. And these cars weren't that far off the pace of Formula 1 cars. They were basically the same thing, just take away the operating finances. But by the early 1980s, costs spiraled, grids shrank, and the FIA said, right, let's make something completely different. And that creation was Formula 3000, because what's more logical than naming a series after engine displacement? So now we are in the era of Formula 3000, the series that sounded like it was named after a printer, but sounded a lot better. The initial Formula 2 series failed mainly because of running costs, so how would the Formula 3000 series combat this? Well, the FIA said that the Formula 3 category would use old F1 chassis and engines. So ultimately, they took the Formula 1 leftovers, but made them fast. And although this sounds like a wacky plan, it actually worked. Formula 3000 was a massive success. It churned out drivers like Michael Schumacher, Rubens Barrichello, Sebastian Montoya, and even Fernando Alonso. The racing was intense, the cars were quick, powerful, and occasionally tried to murder a driver, which the fans absolutely loved. Formula 3000 sounded like such a great success, so why is it still not running today? Well, big teams dominated, privateer entries struggled, and grid sizes dropped, and so did the excitement. After 20 years, the FIA decided the series needed a fresh lick of paint, and perhaps a billionaire. Therefore, enter Bernie Ecclestone in 2005. For the best part of a decade, the GP2 series had one simple mission: create Formula 1 stars before they even make it to the big time. They raced on the same weekends as Formula 1, which meant a lot of paddock eyeballs were on the young up-and-coming talents. But there was one thing that was different from Formula 1 in this series, and that was that there was no pit-to-car radio, meaning basically drivers had to learn on their own after being thrown in at the deep end. GP2 produced a conveyor belt of future Formula One talent. At the very start, there were two kind of unknown drivers by the names of Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg, who headlined the series, but later on we also saw the likes of Nico Hülkenberg and Pierre Gasly. The racing was spicy. You had a reverse grid sprint race and then a feature race with pit stops. Entertainment? Yes. Chaos? Also yes. But with all this success came one problem, and that was the pricing. Because to drive in this series it would cost more than a London apartment. Maybe not a nice one, but still. And due to this, in the background, a challenger appeared. So let's look over what we've looked at so far. We had Formula 2 kicking things off, where we had legends of the sport created. Then we had Formula 3000, which was powerful and chaotic. And then GP2, where the stars were polished and pretty much ready for Formula 1 before they made the step up. But what if the best drivers weren't in GP2? Enter Formula Renault 3.5. Now, here's where things get interesting. While GP2 was getting the glamour treatment, Renault had other ideas. Formula Renault 3.5, also known as World Series by Renault, had powerful V6 engines, and at times the cars were a lot quicker than the GP2 equivalents. Drivers like Sebastian Vettel and Daniel Ricciardo came through the Formula Renault 3.5 series, proving that GP2 didn't have a hold on the future stars of Formula 1. The series had more track time, lower costs, and even free attendance for the fans, which was great for creating atmosphere, but not so great for creating money. But without the direct Formula 1 weekend exposure and the big marketing push, GP2 kept the spotlight, and by 2015, Formula Renault 3.5 had faded away. And speaking of the mid-2010s, big changes were coming for the step before Formula 1. In 2017, the FIA hit the reset button, changing the GP2 name back to where it all started. It was once again known as Formula 2. And instantly, the talent on show was immense. Charles Leclerc, George Russell and Alex Albon were all competing for titles in the series before making the step up to the big time. And with all of the drivers on the grid running the Mechachrome engines and Dallara chassis, it meant that it wasn't the equipment they had to rely on to get race wins, it was their own talent behind the wheel. The cars have DRS, pit stops and even tyre degradation. Basically, it's a mini Formula 1. In 2024, Dallara changed the shape of their chassis to make it resemble more of the Formula 1 cars. So much so that the Apex GP team in the Formula 1 movie used the Dallara chassis in the film itself. Anyway, I'm not here to speak about a 60-year-old driving in Formula 1. I'm here to speak about drivers a third of his age making it to the top step of motorsport. And the path for these young super talents to get to F1 could not be more clear. Formula 4, then 3, then 2, and then obviously Formula 1. There is no more alphabet soup of racing categories that the drivers have to compete in to make their way to the top. And in all of these series, well, maybe aside from Formula 1, we never see the same combination of drivers on the podium. We rarely ever see repeat race winners, but one thing we do see all the time is crashes. And let's just be honest, the majority of Formula 2 races are much more entertaining than Formula 1. From Formula 2 in the 40s to Formula 2 today and everything in between, the step before Formula 1 has changed names, formats and costs more than I've probably had hot dinners, but their mantra has always stayed the same: find the next big Formula 1 star. Legends of motorsport like Jackie Stewart and Niki Lauda have passed through Formula 2, and the future stars of Formula 1 like Isaac Hadjar and Gabriel Bortoleto have succeeded in the series as well. But who knows where the next star will come from, and will it be in the next 5 years, 10 years, or even next year? And with us now approaching the tail end of the Formula 2 season, will Leo Fornaroli make it back-to-back championships after winning Formula 3 just last year? Or will Luke Browning win his first Drivers' Championship since the GB3 one in 2022? But as we saw with 4 of the 5 rookies coming into Formula 1 this year, winning the championship doesn't mean that you get a seat in F1. Driving well means you do. Does that mean that we could see Arvid Lindblad, the superstar 17-year-old from Great Britain, in the V-Carb next year? Well, I certainly hope so, but who do you think will make the next big step into Formula 1 from Formula 2? Thank you for watching this video today. I hope you enjoyed learning about the step before Formula 1 and its entire history. If you like my content and want to see more, please subscribe to the channel, give the video a like, and leave a comment on who you think will make the next step up to Formula 1. But until next time, that will be all.